Howdy guys, I'm here with a new update, Bad Medicine, for the awesome deception survival game Dread Hunger. It's basically the latest update to the series to the game, and it is very interesting. It has changed the dynamic of the game significantly, and it's going in a direction I'm very excited for. Now to start with, we're going to go through basically all the changes and what I think they're going to do for the game. From my experience from playing for the last day and a half since the updates come out, what it's done to the game already, how the crew are changing their playstyle, how Thralls are realigning themselves with the crew, sort of less hermit Thrall, what kind of strategies are coming up because of the changes in this latest update. We are on, I think it's version 0.9, I might be wrong on that. We'll do a check later. I'll do a little, we'll correct that in text if that's wrong. But first things first, sort of a surprise change. We have got a new model for the Doctor. He is this slimy little orange vest wearing weasel, and I kind of love him. He's got beautiful sideburns. He's got this, I don't know what this is called. It's like a fancy doctor's sort of bow tie. I'm really not sure. It's something olden day. I'm sure there's a name for it. Someone let me know in the comments what that's called, please. I can't be bothered to look it up. But he looks good. He's got the rolled up sleeves. He's iconic. He stands out. And I'm very happy with the model. I would have liked to see maybe some little spectacles, just because I'm a sucker for little spectacles and a doctor. All right, the first change I want to talk about are the Thrall changes. Now, I am playing as a Thrall right now. It's a custom game, as you saw. So you'll be able to see exactly what the changes are right off the bat. The first major change is there are no longer bone knives hidden around the map. To gain access to your bone knife, you simply click the button that is assigned in the bottom right. For me, it's middle mouse button. You can change it simply by going into your settings, going into input, and scrolling down until you see bone dagger. And then you can change it to whatever input you'd like to have it on. Now, by default, it is set to C, which is craft as well. So the problem with that, we'll just give you an example of what that looks like. If you change it to C, every time, if you're a crew member, not a crew member, if you're a Thrall but you want to build a fire and you're in front of people and you press C. C. If you press C, boom, it pulls out your bone knife every time you want to build a campfire. You can't, there's no way to change it because they're both on the same button. You press C, it pulls out the bone knife, but also comes up the crafting menu, which allows you to build bone totems, but also is where your campfire is, which could be an important item for you to build depending on what type of style of Thrall you're playing. If you're out and about with people, you need to build a campfire, keep yourself warm until you're ready to attack. Boom, you pull out a bone knife, which by the way is now only accessible to Thralls. There's an absolute 0% chance of a crewmate ever holding a bone knife in the current patch. So you're basically giving away you're a Thrall immediately simply by pressing your craft button to build a campfire. So I would highly recommend going into those settings, scrolling down to Bone Dagger, and changing that to a button that isn't currently used for something else. I'm using middle mouse button. It does, of course, mean that the bottom right, there's the tag middle mouse button's quite long there. I don't have an issue with that. Others might. So whatever floats your boat, really. Now, the middle, at the start of the lobby, your bone knife is able to be used immediately, but you can't use it until you've charged up to at least one tick in the bottom right-hand corner. I'll just zoom in on that now. You can see how that is slowly ticking up from the first sort of middle up, slightly angled big triangle. That's the start, and it's trying to move towards the triangle on the right in a clockwise direction. When it reaches that, you'll be able to use a spell, and you can use any spell that isn't on cooldown. So at the moment, my whiteout and cannibal attacks are on cooldown, but I would be able to spirit walk, as the cooldown for spirit walk is faster. Of course, judging by how they've started this out, if you don't build a totem right off the bat, it looks like your first tick is going to be in line with the cooldown of whiteout and cannibal attack. We'll just check that out. 3, 2, 1, tick. And there it is. Cool. So if I want to use a bone dagger, it takes until you've basically got the timer for your whiteout and cannibal attack until you can actually use your spirit walk. Unless you rush ahead, build a few totems, and get that ticker in the bottom right-hand corner moving faster. And that's going to allow you to use spells more regularly, as you can only use a spell when you've got at least one tick. Now, of course, when if I let this orange circle in the bottom right-hand corner fill up completely, and I use the whiteout, it would use a level 3 whiteout, which is the longest whiteout possible. That would use all the ticks and take it back down to 0, and I'd have to recharge back up to 1 tick until I was able to summon Cannibal Attack or Spirit Walk away. So that's something to keep in mind, is you're only ever able to use one of these spells within a short amount of time of each other. And as a crew member, if you ever hear a Cannibal Attack followed by a whiteout, you know that 2 different thralls just use a bone knife attack. So that's information to keep track of the people around you. Whiteout into cannibal attack, you know that everyone around you, if you didn't see them use a bone knife, they're guaranteed crew members. Very important information to keep with you in this patch. It'll help you solve who the thralls are a lot easier if thralls are throwing out abilities left, right, and center and not caring about concealing their identities or keeping the mystery in the air. Other changes to do with the Thrall, the Spirit Walk can no longer go up ice walls or ladders. I'll give you an example of that. So if I use the Spirit Walk, I cannot climb the mast here to get up to the crow's nest. I also cannot use it to get onto the ship, which is a major change. I'm sure you can imagine how big of a deal this is for Thrall if you've played this game before. You cannot get onto the ship without climbing and revealing yourself with that giant sound. Which, my goodness, that is a major change for Thrall. If you want to sneak onto the ship, you have to have your identity and your sort of deception game on fleek, because people are going to see you coming onto the ship. You can't just spirit dagger into the back room, set off a bomb, and run off the ship. Admittedly, you couldn't do that before anyway, really. I mean, you could Spirit Dagger on, you'd have to run away and hope people didn't kill you. But the general idea is you're not able to get onto the ship secretly without anyone having the opportunity of seeing you, which I'm actually a fan of. Some of my friends, not so much, as it does limit what you're able to do as Thrall. But with the current climate of the game, the balance is pretty good. I'm okay with that being a change. I'm happy with the way it is at the moment. I'm okay with the fact that as a crew member, you can leave a crew defending both of the ladders. And if a Thrall comes on, you hear the giant gasp and you hear them. It also forces Thralls to play that deception level longer. They can't just run away at the start, zoom onto the ship and cause havoc. Their identity is important just to get them access to the ship. It's not just granted to them by definition. There's a new item with the powder keg, actually. So the powder keg is basically a replacement item for the bomb barrel that used to exist, where you've got a barrel, you filled it with gunpowder, came on, lit it, made a big noise. The powder keg, long story short, requires a barrel and 5 gunpowder to craft. You have to go into the bench as a Thrall, and here is the item, powder keg. You still need to craft a barrel, and then once you have a barrel, you have to locate 5 gunpowder, and you can use both of them to simply craft a powder keg. With the powder keg in the game, it's now silent. Well, it's basically silent. I think you can barely hear it. It's basically a barrel with a little fuse hanging off it. In theory, you should never see a crewmate holding a powder keg, as they aren't craftable by crewmates. They're only craftable by Thrall. That being said, a Thrall can locate a powder keg, throw it on the ground, and then a crewmate could simply pick it up and run around with it to get rid of it. So you shouldn't just kill people holding powder kegs. You need to give them a chance to explain why they're holding the powder keg in the first place. And it might be a legitimate reason. Who am I to say why they're holding a powder keg? It's an interesting change, as the bomb used to be quite a high alert item. Now it's a lot quieter. It's a lot more difficult for crew to locate, but it does take a lot longer to go off. So you've got more time for crewmates to locate the bomb if they're looking for it, and it also takes more time for the Thrall to reposition, so they're not right next to the bomb the moment there's a big audio cue. A bit more layers for deception there. The one downside of this change is a powder keg can currently float in the water and still go off. So a couple of games, I'll get a clip of this actually and I'll play it over. I threw the powder keg and tried to land it on the back. It fell short, it landed in the water, it didn't knock the fuse out when it went underwater. It came back up, it exploded, it did damage to the ship. If I'm not wrong, a powder keg does creates 10 holes in the ship in an ideal position. I'm not sure how many holes were created in the ship as it did hit the back of the ship. It wasn't in the center, so there was less spots. To me, that seems pretty strong and very difficult for the crew to defend against. I'd like to think there's a counterplay to that. Maybe it's the fact that you should be able to hear if something lands in the water, and maybe you can go back and check there isn't a bomb going off at the back of the ship. That's kind of the major changes at the moment. It's same with putting it right on the ice next to the ship. It still does damage to the ship, even though it's not actually on the ship. And there's no real audio cue to alert the crew that a bomb is about to go off. However, the bombs do less damage, so if a bomb was on the outside of the ship and you were simply inside, let's say you're in the cooking area cooking, and a bomb was on the other side of the wall, you wouldn't die from the powder keg going off. It'd do quarter to half damage depending on how close you were. As far as I'm aware, I haven't done complete tests on that, but that sounds about right. Anyway, let's move on to the next major change, which is the searching mechanic. And this is what excites me the most. When you go into a searchable item where you'd usually just open and there'd be items on there, you now have to spend time searching it as you would a coal sled in hoping to locate an item. I'm going to leave this here so I can pick it up a bit later when I'm explaining this armory change, but we won't go into that right away. And that is currently defined for every single sort of searchable item where items would normally spawn in the game, except for the workbenches as they don't require time, but there can still be items spawning on those. So the second workbench has been moved to here. It was previously in this back location. Now it's where this sled used to be. So it is worth sort of running through at the start of the game to pick sort of one item to get your actual search on. Maybe you can go for both workbenches to try and get an extra item too. I'm not 100% sure on what the most efficient method is just yet. But it does take that extra time. And that basically means at the start of the game, when you have those few players that jump off at the start of the game and go to loot all the items, you used to have the cook or the chaplain, people in general, run down the left-hand side, grab all the bones, and either be a thrall, disappear and spam totems, or they'd come back to the ship and make stew. That was kind of the two options there. Now, the players that run down the left-hand side, they're forced to stop and check in the skeleton, search for it, and it delays them. It gives other players a chance to catch up. It evens out who has the loot, and it creates an evener, more fair dynamic between crew and thrall, as items gained aren't just all on the player that jumps straight off the start and grab them all. Now the next major change is that coal is less efficient. Each coal goes less distance than it used to. And I would add to that to counteract that change, there is now more coal on the map. And we'll just spirit walk over and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the coal sleds at the start of the game, on the left and the right here, have been moved. They've been repositioned, and the coal is now a lot more back-centric. The reason for this change, from what I understand, is it's going to create and force the crew to really work together in the early game. God, that's a long cooldown, isn't it? It's going to force the crew to work together in the early game to be able to get all the coal from these first few caves to get the ship to the stage where the coal at the other end of the map isn't so far to go that you're getting double cannibal just for trying. Now, Wolf's HP has been decreased to about 40 HP from what I understand. It takes 4 hits with the cleaver. It takes 3 hits with a bow and arrow, as the bow damage has been decreased to 19 damage. It used to be 20. That also works for cannibals. Cannibals now require 3 hits from a bow, not 2, which is a major change. Now, more onto the coal, though. We're just going to head up to this cave. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in this back cave, there's still these 3 coals. But the big coal sled in this cave now has more coal in it. And every coal sled on the map now guaranteed spawns 2 coal. So to counteract the fact that there is... I'll just check this coal sled first so you can see what I'm talking about. Every coal sled that the normal coal sleds will always have 2 coal. It also has a key apparently. Good. But the big coal sled, which is the one that looks a little bit larger, it's got... This is what a normal one looks like. This one is large. It looks like it's sitting on snow or whatever. It just looks like larger coal sled. It spawns a guaranteed 4 coal. So the idea is that crew really need to prioritize getting this coal back early. If they don't, then you leave yourself as a crew member. You leave yourself in the hands of other players, hoping that the ship isn't just right back at the start as you're fucking off getting items. That's a major change for me. Because at the start of every game, when I was playing, if I wasn't in a particularly team-spirited mood, which is often, as it is very frustrating when you're the player bringing all the coal back and then you die simply because everyone else has made weapons and you don't have them. You're forced to get the coal back. Well, not forced, but your game will suffer if you don't get the coal back. Whereas before, you could get to the end of the map on the first day with only really 2 or 3 players bringing back coal. The others could really all fuck off and bring back weapons. And it was a dynamic I wasn't a huge fan of. Whereas now, they've made a major change with the amount of coal required to move the ship. And when the ship hits ice, it decreases the speed of the ship down to, I believe, 70 to 80, is it knots? I think it's knots, right? Which is a major change because the ship is now moving slower. It's taking longer for the ship to go basic distances. It's costing the crew dearly. The extra note I want to make with coal here is that coal now, if the ship takes damage, the ship now moves slower until it is fixed. Which, as you can imagine, is a change that throws people when they first start playing this update. The ship is barely moving. They don't understand why. And the reason is that they are leaking the front of the ship. Someone's hit an iceberg. There's only 3 holes, but the ship is only moving at about 30 to 45 knots, if I'm not mistaken, which is super slow. Like, it's half as fast. You need to get that damage fixed right away. You need to have wood ready on the ship, and if there isn't, the crew fall further and further behind. It creates a very interesting dynamic with the way the Thralls drive the ship. There wasn't a lot of point for Thralls driving the ship and hitting icebergs. Hitting 1 or 2 icebergs when driving the ship as a Thrall and having plausible deniability, that slows down the crew significantly, especially if there aren't hands on deck trying to fix the leaks at the time. You're calling out for help, but you can check and you can see on your Thrall vision that there's no one else near the ship and you're just trying to ask for help, but no one's helping you. You look like the good guy. Now, I'll just give you an example of what it takes to create a powder keg. So the powder keg costs a coal barrel and 5 gunpowder. As it shows here, it'll create a bomb, and you can light it in a very simple and easy manner, which is very easy to use. It is a Thrall-only item, which is why it's blue. It cannot spawn for crew, so you'll only ever see a Thrall member create or build a powder keg. So, the way you set it off is you... Oh, actually, I might just go back to the ship to give you an example of what I was talking about before. So the powder keg, you can light it by holding it in your hands and pressing left click. Now, I will note, I'm using my scroll wheel at the moment, and I'm scrolling over and skipping these items. It would be worth going into your settings, scrolling up to the top of, is it input? Game. Scroll past Thrall items should be connected, should be ticked. That way, if someone ever asks you to, I don't know, scroll through your items, you won't reveal that you have a Thrall item on you. And if you ever want it, you simply click the number associated with that bar. So for me, it's the number 2, as my first 2 items are my mouse button. Then I have 1 as my 3rd item, 2 as my 4th item. So if you ever want to use a powder keg, you hold it in your hand, you select it, you press left click, and it starts going off. Now we'll do a quick time on this. I'll show you how to defuse it as well. So it is... Okay, cool. So if you start it and then you press left click again, you can turn it off as well. So that's something to note. But if you want to start it, you simply start it and then throw, and that is now going off. To blow it out, you hold E to interact, and you start diffusing it. Now, it takes a long time to do it. This isn't about to blow up, despite it not doing that. And boom, you've diffused it. Downside is that people aren't going to know you diffused it right away. They're not going to hear it, and then you're not going to be the hero of the ship anymore. I'll show you what I was talking about with the water. It goes underwater, but it's still going off. You still need to jump in here and diffuse it while swimming. Can you not diffuse while swimming? You can. You just freeze to death while doing it. Jeez, that's gonna be annoying. Takes a long time to do that. But you can pick up the item while in the water, so there's that. Generally speaking, with the powder kegs, you'll see people sort of go to the front of the ship. If they're not aware that they can do it on the outside, they'll just start off. They'll drop it in like a spot like that and just leave it. And as you can tell, you have to be this close to sort of hear it. Like you cannot hear it whatsoever. I'm gonna stand about here, and we're gonna see how much damage it does. It's gonna take a long time to go off, but it won't kill me. It shouldn't kill me. I guess we'll see. So that was directly next to it. We've taken almost half health, maybe a third health. Pain in the ass, but whatever. I don't particularly want to fix the ship, but I will. I didn't bring back any coal, did I? Oh. I didn't break any wood anyway, either. Cool. Oh, it hasn't recharged. So in the time it's taken me to get do that whole bomb stuff, the recharge speed still hasn't brought me back the ability to use my ability yet. It won't be long. It'll be just in a second. There it is, and now I can spirit walk again, or white out, or kind of. It's taking a long time. Getting totems up is the most important element of this game if you want to be using your bone knife. If you don't want to use the bone knife, then fucking whatever, I don't care. But you're a bone knife user, I'd highly recommend that. Okay, next change. What are we going to talk about? Yes, the Arctic hair change. Actually, no, we won't talk about the Arctic hair change. We'll talk about something a bit more important. Poison. Now, this will be a bit of a long one, so apologies in advance. But it is important. So in order to make poison, it is now a Thrall-only item. You can only get poison if you're a Thrall. Again, a crew can find where Thralls have left poison, but they cannot make it themselves. So this poison option isn't there if you're a crew member. This is very important. So if a crew member sees you're on the stove, asks to see what you made, and you show them that their poison is there, that is a Thrall item, the crew will kill you. There is no reason. It's impossible for a crew to make poison now. There is no reason, especially because antidote isn't made out of poison anymore. It's made out of herbs. It creates this dynamic where Thralls are going to have to be stealthy about creating poison. There's no excuse for it anymore like there used to be. So you make poison, 3 herbs, chuck in a poison. Now poison simply is made out of 3 herbs, so is tea, so is antidote. There's reason to be picking up herbs. There's no reason to have poison. It's now blue, as it is a Thrall item. If you're in the bar, it skips over if you have that button ticked, as I showed you before. Now to make an antidote, you need 3 herbs and you need a laudanum. You create an antidote, and boom, you're laughing. You're able to sort of cure your poison. I'll show you the pure death that is poison at the moment. If you drink poison, after a certain amount of time, I'm not sure exactly how long, probably should do a timer on it. We might chuck the timer on. See what people think. I think it's between 45 seconds-ish. So after about 45 seconds, you'll start throwing up. And it is much more deadly than it used to in this patch. Previously, if you get poisoned, you'll slowly lose health over a set amount of time. Your health will deteriorate. And when you go down, you can get in a bed, recover, And it knocks you out for about half a day to a day length, depending on the time of when you get poisoned and the state of your health, things like that. This new poison is far more deadly. When you first throw up, you lose, I believe, a third of your HP. There it is. Fuck, that's good timing. You lose about a third of your HP. Every poison after that... Oh, wow. So the first 2 poisons do about 2/3 of your HP, apparently. Have a look. What's the third one do? And then after that... Okay, cool. So the first 2 throw-ups do significant damage. They do about 2/3 of your health. And then after that, your health slowly deteriorates. You can see this little grey circle where the red circle around your HP used to be. Very important to note here. That HP will, if that grey reaches the end, it will kill you like you do when you starve. I don't mean get down, get in a bed, recover like it used to be. I'm talking death, done, finito, that's it, good night, you're dead. Yeah, you go to the brick, that is, you're done. Now you can, I mean, I'm not sure how many vomits there are in total. We can probably do a count in the VOD after this. So it actually might be important to know. So say someone's in full HP, I think I can get one more throw up and then I'm dead, right? One more and then I'll be on death row. Maybe not. Let's see. One more. I'm trying to see how long I can last this antidote. I might die here. One more. For science? Or science? Okay, cool. So the next one will definitely kill me. We'll take the antidote. Heals you immediately. You're fine. Now, the downside of the whole antidote heals you thing. People, you're like, oh, well, poison's useless. People just make sure they make antidote. Boom. Doesn't even matter anymore. Your poison is as useless as it used to be, right? Wrong, my friend. Got no idea what you're talking about. You need, let me explain. I don't want your rock. Just check there's no wolves about to kill me. Oh god, please don't attack me. Please don't attack me. Please don't attack me. I don't want to die to a wolf in a custom game. I have them on low damage, but still. Let's take you through exactly why the poison antidote being strong isn't actually as strong as we think it is. As you might think. Now, laudanum is relatively rare. That's the first thing to note. Laudanum is found in doctor bags, on skeletons, and also in crafting tables, and also on, like in these bodies, you can find them on there, because you know when a corpse is about to die, they hide laudanum on them. That's very common. Okay. We'll make a second poison here as well, actually. So it should show up. You can poison antidote. You can also poison laudanum. That means anything that is made out of laudanum, that laudanum after you've poisoned it will be poisoned. So you can potentially poison laudanum, leave it around, people then make it into an antidote, and that antidote is now poisoned. Things like that, right? That also means you can also poison syringes. I haven't got a syringe on me, but you can still poison syringes. So you can just go up and jab a person with a syringe and poison them, and they're like, fuck, man, and yeah, they're dead. Boom, 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 shakalaka. Well, they're not actually. They just need to focus on making antidote, or at least have a player dedicated. So that's really the major change of this update. Players are expected. Well, not expected, but if you don't want to die a miserable, painstaking death of poison, please make yourself an antidote or designate a player on your team to be making antidote. Now, the downside of that is the player making antidote could have poisoned the antidotes, but there's not a lot you can do about that other than make your own antidote, right? So if I drank this antidote right now, it would heal me, and after 45 seconds, I get poisoned again. So it would fix me, and then I get poisoned again, which would again do the 3/4 of your health damage. So it restore like let's say 2/3 of your health. So antidote poisoning. So if you poison someone, they do the 2 vomits. You give them the antidote. They take the antidote. 45 seconds later, they probably die. Pretty nasty stuff. I'm running out of time until the ship sinks, and I really don't want to go back and fix it. I probably should, but anyway. The locked boxes no longer spawn guns. They spawn other things, including a powder keg. Apparently there's 5 items in here. Nice. Juicy. Captain's swords no longer exist. They are now... I might just trick these. Captain's swords no longer exist. They are. They just, you can't make them. You can only upgrade them. The Arctic hair changes. They look different now. They look sort of nicer. I'll just find one that's alive. Oh, there's been a wolf massacre through here. Jeepers. Is there a hare alive anywhere here, man? Anywhere? There he is. Look, he's pretty cute. Running away. Like, yeah, man. I'm just running away. Don't mind me. The seals are still cool as hell. I love them. They look really nice. They're not as glitchy as the old bunny rabbits either. But they still die in a very similar manner. We'll grab this wood and try and fix the ship, I guess. Oh, actually, the major change I wanted to talk about. We'll just do that real quick. They've made a major change to the map on the summit. And we'll just go up and have a quick look at it. I've got a second powder keg, so we can just set that off. Do a little count until we hear the explosion. So this sort of hill used to be a hill that headed straight up to that cave. Now, there is an ice wall there. You need to build an ice pick to be able to climb it. Ice picks are also findable in locked boxes, which mixed opinions on. Some people like it, some people are a pain in the ass, you know, whatever. I don't think powder kegs have a consistent sort of damage timer on them either. But yeah, you need to come up here, climb the wall, and then you can get to the top, right? If you throw a cleaver now, it only does 10 damage at point blank range. You have to do, it does more damage from long range. So the further someone is away, the more damage your cleaver will do. Before, you used to hit the wolf twice and then throw it, it would kill it. If you do that now, as I just did, it doesn't kill it. It lives, you're now without a weapon. So don't do that, or learn the hard way. I really don't care. I really wish players left footprints like wolves do. Anyway. I actually do need to go back and fix the ship, don't I? Is there any other changes that we're going to talk about? I think I've gone through everything. Oh, the inventory changes. So there is no weight system anymore. Basically, the devs were like, man, that's a pain in the ass. We really don't like the weight system anymore. Players hate it. Well, they didn't hate it, but it was a pain in the ass, right? Now you can make as many barrels as you want. You can fill them with as many coal as possible, bring all that coal back to the ship. Potentially, players have been coming back with 15, 20, 18 coal if they make 5, 6 barrels. That's a very committed player, and that player is obviously very vulnerable to dying, but it is something they could do. We're going to head back to the ship to try and save it. I don't know if we'll be able to in time, but hey, exciting times, right? There should only be 5 to 10 holes, so I fixed one of them before, so there should be 9 holes to fix. I'm not sure if there'll be 9 or not. Oh god, I'm not gonna make it, am I? Gosh. The Doctor has a new passive. That's another change. I know this is a bit disconjointed. I'm kind of going through everything as I'm thinking about it. I know I made notes, but I've kind of gone out of order, off script a little bit. So the Doctor has a new passive. It used to be 30% more efficient healing. Now it is 60% more recovery speed on... so you'll be able to carry people... When you're carrying a player on your back, they die 60% slower, and they recover 60% faster when you put them in a bed. Just start the fire with a coal. It's going the whole time. And we'll head to the front of the ship, so there won't be anything down this end. So the inventory space as well, certain items can now only be stacked up to 5. So the iron scrap I have here, I could not stack more than 5, then it would go into a new pile, if that makes sense. I will add to that wood is still at 10, but meat, like food, has been decreased to 5, so you have to commit 2 stacks if you want to come back and make a stew. Bit of a pain in the ass. A new hole has been added to the ship, which is at the back of the table. You can still fix it from this side of the table, but something new. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything else. How's that for saved? Oh, and finally, the Armory. I'll show you footage from some of my games last night of the Armory being unlocked, as I'm not going to be able to guess what this is, as I did get my number in the front here. You find these items around the map. You can only get one number per player. You need 6 digits to unlock the Armory. And in the Armory, there are 4 muskets. Muskets, of course, being the upgraded version of the flintlock pistol in the game that used to be in the previous patch. You used to be able to make them with this steel ingot here. But the steel ingot now can only be used to upgrade the captain's sword. It has no other use. So the muskets, as a flint, you cannot upgrade a flintlock pistol anymore. You can still make a flintlock pistol, but when you find it, it gives you a number. The 6th number is number 1. That's what that means. So over here, the 6th number, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This digit is 1. Now, generally, I'd have 8 players in the game, so players would get a code, come back, they'd set their code to a random number or whatever. They'd go, oh yeah, my number's like 6, and then this one's like 1, and then this number's, I don't know, let's make this one like 8. I like number 8, and we'll make this one 2, and then we go, boom, it unlocks. Fuck, that would have been cool. Just in case it was one off. No. I'm such an addict to that. I love fucking trying to work it out. But in there was a bunch of weaponry. So basically, the new game design for crew is to get the ship to the end, work out who you trust, and give the muskets out, because muskets damage have been increased to about 70, 75 damage. I'm not entirely sure on the numbers. It's significant though. And you give the muskets out to the players you trust. There's also some ammo in the armory, and you then head up sort of the bear way and try and kill the bears, and you take on thralls up there. Of course, deception thralls now have a lot more incentive to stay on the ship. If they can earn the trust of the crew, they can earn 1 or 2 of the muskets. That is some havoc that the thralls can create. Another play I've seen happen, or at least attempt to happen, are the thralls sneaking on the ship, having their code number, and the crew leaving their numbers there, like 2 or 3 numbers, then the thralls sneak on, put their 2 numbers, and then unlock it when the crew aren't aware of it. They take all the muskets, they throw muskets in the water, and they take 2 for themselves, kind of thing. Because you can only carry 1 gun now. That's the major change I'm trying to lead up to. You cannot double gun anymore in Dread Hunger. Woohoo! Because fuck double gunning. Basically, you had to double gun yourself, otherwise you would be double gunned in the previous patch. It was a very unhealthy style of play. It forced players to run off at the start of the game, locate gun parts, open chests with keys, find 2 guns, and then defend themselves against any players that looked sus. It meant players were dying more often. They were being shot for reasons that were unexplained to them. And it was creating an unhealthy dynamic in the game, at least in my opinion, as players were being killed without a chance to defend themselves. A big part of Dread Hunger is that Dread Hunger devs did not want this game didn't want you to be able to kill someone instantly. They needed to have a chance to fight back. They needed to have a chance to speak and give their case. If they do get shot, they have a decent amount of time while they're reloading. As it is a musket, it takes a few seconds to reload, so they shoot, reload. That's enough time to sort of spirit dagger away if you're a thrall, so you can get away, or you can try not to die, try and explain and plead your case why you shouldn't die. Things like that. The Armory also creates a dynamic where crew members aren't having to run off at the start of every game, trying to get the weaponry from the ammo crates on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, build weapons, create bullets, come back to the ship with like 1 or 2 coal, and then pretend like they did anything for anything at all, which is what I used to do because I hated the feeling of being defenseless. I hated knowing who the thralls were and only having a melee weapon to try and kill them when they simply bang, bang, and I'm dead. It was a disgusting style of play. I didn't like it, and you either had to join them or whinge about it. And I did both, and I preferred joining them as it made me enjoy the game more than whinging about it and thinking that it was so unfair that I worked out who the thralls were on day 1, but they had 2 guns and I had a spyglass as the navigator, and I couldn't kill them. I just had to say, look, I think you're sus, and either they shoot me or they leave, or they, I don't know, they do other thrall things, right? Anyway, I'm not sure if there are any other changes I've missed. If I have missed any, please let me know in the comments. I know this has been a pretty long video. I might try and condense it. We're at 46 minutes right now. Fuck, that's a long video. Oh, a lot of changes, though. A lot of changes. I tend to rant. I know that you're probably not going to have made it to the end, but if you did, you're a fucking champion. I love you, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I hope you're now ready to take on Dread Hunger's best and finest, Dread Hunger's finest out on the summit. There are some changes on the approach, mainly the coal positioning. I didn't focus on that today, as generally speaking, the players that want to learn about the patch are players that already know the game. So if you're new to the game and you're not understanding what I'm saying, focus on playing the approach map, which is the other map in the loading on the loading table. Play that map a few times. Play hopefully with newer players or maybe a couple of experienced players to help explain things. Learn the ropes. Then you'll start understanding simple things like what the fuck double gunning is. I mean, you probably work it out, but you might not have experienced and know what it's like to have someone come up, shoot you with one gun, and then instantly change to the other gun and shoot you with the second gun. You're downed, you're thrown in the water, and your 25 to 30 minutes of preparation helping the ship is just over, because now there is a Thrall on the ship, double gunning every player that comes to the ship who comes back to rescue you from the brig. And no one even has keys anyway, unless you brought one. That was a whole thing. I'm really happy with the direction of this patch. There's a couple of things, like the poison being very strong. It forces crew members to make antidotes. It forces players to play in certain ways to prepare themselves in case the Thralls do something evil, like poison and ruin the crew. That isn't always going to happen. You're going to have games where your entire crew get poisoned, no one's made antidotes, and you're by yourself because they're all fucking dead in the brig and you don't have any keys. That's going to happen. You're going to think it's super unfair. But at that point, remember, next time you play, make some antidotes. Check the doctor bags that you usually run by. Make a few antidotes, have them on you. I like making a fuck ton as the doctor so I can help everyone when I'm crew. It makes me feel like I have something that I can give as the doctor, as previously he was just basically another coal junkie. Maybe he made a syringe. Generally, he didn't, because people didn't like being jabbed by mystery syringes anyway in this game, so you're kind of losing out either way. Yeah, so I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic about these changes. I'm seeing some Hermit Thrall players, the type of players that ran off, built weapons, and came back shooting you, very upset, not enjoying the game, leaving the game, complaining, whinging, all those general traits you expect from people who have something they like taken from them. I don't blame them for reacting that way, but I do note that of course you're going to feel that way if you refuse to change your play style. If you're not adapting with how the game is played, you're simply playing your same old way and then complaining that you don't fit into the new meta. The game is shifting. The game is moving in favor of deception, which is what this game is. It is a deception survival game. It isn't a point-and-shoot first-person FPS, first-person shooter game where you just kill everyone you see. There is actually thinking involved in this game. You need to use your brain. You can't just shoot the first person that looks at you funny and then feel justified in it afterwards. Conversations need to be had. Detective work needs to occur. Thralls need to have the opportunity to do evil shit before they're double gunned and thrown into the water. There needs to actually be something happening in this game, and I'm very happy with the direction that this game is going because of that. I hope that they keep going in this direction. I'm happy for them to sort of back off on some of the more intense changes they've made. Namely, the poison being so ridiculous. I'd be happy if it took another minute to kill someone. Another minute isn't that big a deal. That's enough time for a player to panic, run around, realize there's no Lauderman left, ask around for antidotes, realize their doctor had it the entire time, and then be saved at the last second. I'm happy with that. Other players may not be, but whatever. I don't really give a fuck. Oh, the other map change. There's a couple other map changes up the other end of the map where the bears are. You can't see them from here, but anyway. If you are new to this game as well, I would highly recommend... Actually, I won't even worry about it, but please do yourself a favor. Go into video and set your post-processing to medium. That means you get detail, and your white... If you look in the whiteouts, I'll just give you a quick example. So I'll put this on low for a second. We'll do a whiteout. And if I use my Thrall vision now, this is what I can see. I can see where things are. I can barely see the ship. It's really fucking hard to play, and this is how I played for almost 200 hours. In fact, over 200 hours, I played Thrall like this. And I couldn't see anything. I had to pray and try and find where the ship was based on where I could see people were, and I thought that's how everyone played. If you go into settings, and you put your post-processing up to medium or even higher, but medium is really as far as you have to go, and now you use your Thrall vision, you can see the details of the ship, you can see the details of the ice around you, and this only gets better as you put up to high to epic. It only gets better. I personally don't... I mean, you can upgrade every... You can upgrade every setting. I prefer leaving on medium as my laptop isn't the best. All these other settings can be left on low. You can obviously move everything as you like, but I would recommend doing those settings. Just as a Thrall, little tip. Anyway, I guess we'll take an antidote. It'll poison us, and we'll peace out. Oh, can't yet. Peace out with a whiteout. I was to peace out with Spirit Walk, but I can't. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and keep an eye out for more Dread Hunger content. We'll be putting up full games, including some of my Thrall games, some of my unique strategies I like to come up with. I spend a lot of time theory crafting the best strategies you can do with Thrall. Some of the videos going up will be previous patches just for entertainment's sake, as they were ready to go up, but the patch came out as a surprise, so those videos aren't yet up on my YouTube channel despite not being the current patch. So apologies for those in advance if you watch them and you're like, this is the old patch. It's like, yeah, well, enjoy it for what it is, maybe. If not, that's cool. There'll be plenty of new ones coming out soon. And yeah, as always, have a wonderful day, and plum out. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed or at least learned something from watching. If you did, you can click over here for more Dread Hunger related videos, including some of my best and worst moments in this brilliant game. I stream this game a lot, so you're welcome to come by the stream anytime. Link is in the description below. Finally, I do constantly push myself to come up with new and exciting strategies for both Thrall and Crewmate. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with what I am doing, you can subscribe or click that little bell. But please don't hit the bell on the ship. Over and over and over and over and over again. Please. Please.